What comes to mind when you hear the word bag fumbler? For me, it's Dennis Schroeder or Nerlens Noel, both of whom turned down $100 million and $70 million deals, thinking they deserved more. Instead, they ended up signing much smaller contracts. You could say they threw away the bag. While it's rare to see this happen today, more and more players are fumbling millions out of pure arrogance, ruining their own value because they think they're far better than reality. And with modern contracts being insanely huge, even average role players feel entitled to a slice of that money, which pushes them into bad choices. In this video, we'll look at 4 of the biggest bag fumblers in recent times. And these guys fumbled so badly they might never bounce back, maybe even falling completely out of the NBA. At the top, Kuminga drives in. Smooth finish. +1, Jonathan Kuminga. Jonathan Kuminga. Who else could we start with but the most infamous bag fumbler in recent memory? For context, in October of 2024, it was reported that Kuminga and the Warriors couldn't agree on a new contract. Shortly after, rumors surfaced that Kuminga was given a massive 5-year $150 million extension. Looking back, that deal seems insane, but at the time it actually made sense. In the 2024 offseason, the Warriors were entering a transition. With Steph Curry heading into the last stretch of his career, they needed a young star to step up and carry the future. Kuminga, flaws and all, had a strong 2023-24 season, showing off a versatile offensive game and rare scoring instincts. Kuminga drives in, draws contact, and still scores. He had a natural ability to get buckets. With their title hopes fading, the Warriors figured it was worth keeping him as a possible cornerstone for the future. But Kuminga turned it down and demanded a max extension worth over $200 million. Basically, he wanted the same type of deal his draftmate Cade Cunningham got, 5 years, $224 million or something close. It's flat-out delusional for him to believe he deserves that, but the 2024-25 season looked like his chance to prove it. With Klay leaving and Steph taking fewer shots, a scoring hole opened up. Kuminga was ready to take it. Sadly for him, everything that could go wrong did go wrong. First, Kuminga had a messy start to the season. In his first 20 games, he only put up 14 points a night in less than 20 minutes of action. His minutes kept jumping around, and it was mostly his own fault. Steve Kerr benched him quickly, refusing to play him in crunch time because of lazy defense, blown rotations, tunnel vision, and his stubborn refusal to pass the ball. The guy averaged under 2 assists in those first 20 games, and that alone killed his minutes for the rest of the year. Instead of fixing his flaws in the offseason, he actually made them worse, and Kerr gave him an even shorter leash. Second, things got uglier when he got hurt at the worst possible time. Just as Kerr was finally trusting him with more minutes, Kuminga was logging 30 minutes a night, then he went down on January 4th. The injury was just an ankle sprain, nothing major, but it kept him sidelined for over 20 games. Third, by the time he came back, the Warriors had already shifted in a big way. The arrival of Jimmy Butler completely revived their offense, and suddenly they went from a team barely hanging in the playoff race to an actual contender again. Lost in all of that, though, was Kuminga's role shrinking heavily with Butler in the mix. Kuminga became irrelevant and unnecessary. They played the same spot, but unlike him, Jimmy was reliable. He was steady, made plays, defended, and didn't constantly make the dumb mistakes Kuminga always made. With this possibly being the Warriors' last run at a championship, there was no time left to waste on experiments, so they leaned on the proven Butler. In the playoffs, Kuminga even racked up multiple DNPs against the Rockets, a defensive powerhouse that exposes anyone with weak offensive skills. All the trust Kuminga supposedly built with Kerr the year before vanished. Or maybe Kerr never believed in him from the start and now finally had a real excuse to sit him. Late in the regular season, a reporter asked Steve Kerr about Jonathan Kuminga, and Kerr didn't hold back. Sometimes things take another direction. The pieces have to fit. When JK was out and Jimmy arrived, we went 18-2 right away. We found rotations that worked and started winning, so we stuck with it. For JK, it's brutal. It really is. He's still young. He wants minutes and he's clearly talented enough to deserve them. I do feel for him. But while Kuminga's stats don't look terrible on paper, the damage shows up in the on-off numbers. When he sits, the Warriors post a net rating of plus 4.33. When he plays, that drops to just plus 0.59. The offense especially nosedives, which matches the eye test. Fans watching him all season saw the same thing. He was flat out frustrating. On a veteran squad like the Warriors, those kinds of mistakes are inexcusable. At the same time, Kerr has been criticized for his short leash on Kuminga. In the playoffs, why is Brandon Podziemski allowed to brick shots non-stop and still stay on the floor, while Kuminga gets yanked after one slip-up? Kerr's logic is simple: missing shots is fine if they come within the offense. But Kuminga plays more like an ISO scorer. And every mistake he makes breaks the flow of the offense and kills the game plan. Either way, the 2025 season was brutal for him, and that $150 million extension is basically gone off the table. Caleb Martin, the last time he was actually relevant, was back in the 2023 Eastern Conference Finals. Shot clock winding down, spinning, fading, drilling shots. Martin averaged 19 a night on some of the craziest shot-making I've ever seen. The guy looked like prime Kobe with his footwork and insane tough buckets. That series was when Martin stamped his name, and people thought a simple role player had transformed into a star who dragged Miami past the heavily favored Celtics. Sadly, Martin is now the best modern case of riding the hype of one playoff run. After that, Miami offered him a fair deal, 5 years, $65 million. Martin thought he was worth way more. Honestly, I get it. It was only one series, but doing that against one of the league's best defenses was wild. Reports say he was aiming for $80 to $90 million in free agency. So he gambled, waited a year, and hit the 2024 offseason, which also happened to be a weak free agent market. Check it out. Most of the big-name free agents stayed with their teams, except for DeMar DeRozan. I'm not even sure how many teams really wanted him. Martin was one of the few role players in that free agent class who could have helped a playoff team, since he had done it before. But after rejecting the 5-year, $65 million deal from Miami, he went into free agency hoping for more and completely whiffed. Interest was almost non-existent. The Sixers gave him the best offer, just 4 years, $32 million, and honestly, that's probably what he was truly worth. You can't expect your entire value to come from one hot series, but that's exactly
what Martin tried to do. With the new second apron tax rules, teams are more cautious than ever when paying role players. So 4 years, $32 million, $8 million a year was reasonable. And Philly looked smart for that deal at the time. Except Martin turned out even worse than expected. He was so bad that the Sixers dumped him mid-season to the Mavericks for Quentin Grimes. And get this, they had already butchered one trade by giving up Luka, and now they gave away Grimes, who had a breakout in Philly, while Martin sat rotting on the Mavs bench. That original $65 million offer looks like robbery, but even 4 years, $32 million was an overpay. I've seen players fumble the bag plenty of times, but I've never seen someone fumble the bag, then sign a smaller deal, and still somehow be massively overpaid. Honestly, this might be the last contract Caleb Martin ever gets in the Montrezl Harrell NBA. Montrezl Harrell is the perfect example of a guy who went from very productive to totally irrelevant. Here's the story. Back in the summer of 2018, Trez signed a basic 2-year, $12 million deal with the Clippers. During that contract, he massively, and I mean massively, outplayed his salary. He was a monster off the bench, forming a deadly duo with Lou Williams and leading one of the deepest second units in the league. By year 2 of that deal, he even won Sixth Man of the Year. I remember following free agency that summer. It was chaotic with the pandemic and all, but I couldn't figure out why the Clippers didn't bring Harrell back. After winning Sixth Man and having the best year of his career, you'd think the Clippers would lock him up long-term, right? Well, there were plenty of other. The problem was his game completely fell apart in the playoffs. His defense was awful, his vision was non-existent, and he couldn't score outside of 5 feet. Honestly, Jalen, what do you think about him openly admitting the Clippers didn't even want him back? His playoff stinkers tanked his value. Plenty of guys were getting paid that offseason, but Harrell wasn't one of them. The reason was clear. He was such a defensive liability they had to bench him. On top of that, Harrell almost never passed, and those flaws kept getting exposed year after year in the postseason. You could call him a regular season merchant, and that's exactly why the Clippers let him walk. Still, he did have an option. According to Brad Turner of ESPN, the Hornets offered him a solid deal. 4 years, $80 million. $20 million per season for the reigning Sixth Man of the Year. Honestly, that seemed fair, but he turned it down and instead signed with the Lakers for just 2 years, $19 million. Reporters asked if Harrell only went to LA for a ring chase. The Lakers had just won the 2020 title, so maybe he thought he was joining a dynasty. Maybe he thought he could help the Lakers repeat, but that makes no sense. Up until then, he had only made $16 million total in his career. So turning down $80 million is almost impossible to justify. Harrell was at the perfect age to cash in big, and that was not the moment to chase rings. It gets stranger when you realize he's from North Carolina. So signing with Charlotte would have let him play near home. It looked like the perfect deal. Maybe he wanted to pull a Malik Monk move, sign cheap with the Lakers, shine under the spotlight, then cash out. Or maybe it was Clutch Sports steering him wrong. They might have pushed him to take less for the Lakers brand exposure. Wouldn't be the first time Clutch ruined one of their own clients. That's probably why Harrell dumped them after the Lakers traded him. He knew they gave him awful advice. Either way, by 2023, Harrell was gone from the league. If he had taken Charlotte's offer, he'd still be around. Even if it was empty stats on a trash team, he'd have gotten another contract. This was a generational bag fumble by a role player who got misguided by his own agents. D'Angelo Russell is another perfect case. While he's earned plenty over his career, DLO is the prime example of fumbling an even bigger bag by opting in instead of cashing out. After a strong 2023-24 season with the Lakers, Russell had a career-high year shooting threes. At 27, right in his prime, it was time to lock in a big deal. With an $18 million player option, the smart move after that kind of season was to decline it and secure a long-term payday. Instead, by opting in for 2024-25, DLO gambled badly. He felt safe in LA and thought he could play even better. That was his biggest mistake. If he learned anything, it should have been this: you're never safe with the Lakers, especially on a team run by Lou GM. On December 29, 2024, Russell was shipped off to the Brooklyn Nets. Ironically, this was the second time the Lakers traded him to Brooklyn, but now it was worse. He collapsed on a team with no identity. He finished with the lowest scoring season of his career, even worse than his rookie year, and his three-point shot just disappeared overnight. It was a brutal situation, made worse by his clear lack of drive to compete. What makes it even funnier is what he said in Brooklyn. "I'll never take being able to play free basketball like this for granted again." By free, he meant playing however he wanted without caring about winning. Going into the 2025 free agent class, his value has cratered. He's not sniffing anywhere near the money he could have locked in if he opted out earlier and signed long-term. It's rare in NBA history to see a player purposely hurt his own market by opting in, but this was one of those rare cases with massive consequences. Anyway, that's it. Those were 4 of the biggest bag fumblers we've seen in recent years. If you know any other players who threw away millions, drop their names in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.